guys, welcome to the first video of Unthroned Gaming. I'm JB, and I thought I'd go over some stuff that we picked up in 2022, game related wise. Forgive me, first video, a little nerves, but let's get into it. First off, I'm gonna go through some Switch games we picked up here, my wife and I. So first thing's gonna be Harvestella. We were kind of weirdly interested in it when they kind of announced it. It was like, you know, farming, life sim mixed with RPG. I was more drawn into the RPG aspects. My wife was more drawn into the, you know, the life simulator. She loves Rune Factory and, you know, Story of Seasons, things like that. But she's been putting hours into this lately. We recently just had our second kid in October. So she's been, you know, playing on the Switch in handheld mode as much as she could. But yeah, she's been enjoying it. She's saying it's very heavily leans towards the RPG more than the life simulator stuff, and you know, which is awesome for me when I get a chance to play it. But there seems like a couple classes later on that are, you know, no spoilers, but it requires put a little more effort into that, you know, life sim stuff. Next is going to be Valis, the Phantasm Soldier Collection. I picked this up on a complete whim through limited run. I've never played the Valis series, thanks to Happy Console Gamer in one of his, you know, videos he did with a buddy of his, where they talked about the collection. But it looks kind of interesting. You know, it's anime-like, you know, very much, you know, that magical guardian superhero kind of thing, kind of like Sailor Moon, Magic Knight Rayearth, Ronin Warriors for the boys and stuff like that. But it's a collection of Valis 1, 2, and 3 on one cart in Japanese with English dubs. Because they never really had a dub for it for the actual voice acted lines. Comes with the manual, and unfortunately, that inner cover, ooh, it's no good. Next up is going to be, I haven't even opened it yet, but I've recently been getting into the East series thanks to, again, Happy Console Gamer Johnny Millennium. But I picked up East Origins. Supposedly it is a prequel thousands of years before Adol goes out on his adventures and the journals start getting collected. So I'm really interested in trying to pick that, you know, give it a whirl. Another game I just recently got at the end of the year here, I was waiting for it for my limited run order. It looked really interesting, but thanks to a former coworker of mine, you know, I picked it up. It was called Ender Lilies. Supposedly a little bit of roguelike, supposedly a little bit platformer. If you like Hollow Knight, supposedly it's on that vein. I haven't given it a run myself, but I will let you know when I give it a run. All right, the elephant in the room. For many of us out there, gamer-wise, people who grew up that time, Pokemon was a big piece of our, you know, gaming youth. And even now, it's still popular, even with the controversy with Scarlet and Violet. But I kind of dropped off with the Pokemon games after like Sapphire and Ruby and Emerald. To me, it just kind of seemed like it became unfun. It was unoriginal. The Pokemons, to me, were uninspired. And I know it's a hot take, but you know, that's just my opinion. But there was a game that kind of drew me back in because of the region and kind of the timeline that went with it. And it was Pokemon Legends Arceus. You know, I know most of the Pokemon from just watching the show or, you know, picking up little pieces here and there. I always dabbled my foot into every generation, but I never really get stuck to it. I always got rid of the game later. But Arceus, I really loved it. Still have a little bit to go on it, but from so far, I've been enjoying it. Next up is a game for a series that I actually started playing when it was on the 3DS. Every time a game came out, I kind of scooped it up. And when this got announced on Limited Run, unfortunately, I didn't have the ability to order it in time. It was one of those batched out runs when they did it. But I used to work for a local retailer here in Arizona called Fallout Games. Look them up on Instagram, FalloutGames_AZ. Great guys, great company. But I was able to pick up Mighty Switch Force Collection, which collects all the Mighty Switch Force games. It's Mighty Switch Force 1, 2, Super Mighty Switch Force, and Switch Force Academy. That was the only one I've never played, but I'm super excited to get back into these. Super excited. This one here, this is my wife's a wife purchase, but I was drawn into it just because of the style of game it was. For those out there, there is a series of games called Toho. Starts off as a bullet hell, weirdly enough, with these little magical girls and kind of like a deep lore. Most of the games I've come out after have been more fan games than core games, and those seem to get popular, but they are kind of essentially approved by the creator. But this one was inspired by Symphony of the Night. It's a Metroidvania in that realm. Kind of uses the same art style, and it's called Scarlet Symphony. We picked this up from Play Asia. It has got, English, Chinese, Japanese. It is a region-free game, and it's actually pretty fun. It is difficult as all hell, but what are you gonna do? Last on the Switch pickups, I had to get this. Huge fan of the game when it first came out on the PS1. It came out at a time where I really needed something to distract me from the loss of a family member. So it really has that deep-seated kind of attachment to it. I popped this in the Switch, watched the intro, and my wife just, she noticed I was crying. It's Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers edition. This collects the Radical Dreamers kind of light novel, digital novel that was out as kind of a concept before Chrono Cross came out. And Chrono Cross. Now, a lot of people said, oh, it's got frame rate issues, but I just want to have fun. I literally picked it up to play it again, so I don't have to dig up my PS1, but I had to get that, so. All right, so now we're gonna go to the PS4 games here. Some of these games I just slept on and never picked them up, and some of these are just titles I kind of picked up and through conversations with customers at my old job. Like I said, was Fallout Games, and a coworker I had. So first up is Infamous Second Son. I played this, I never owned it, I regretted never buying it, and it became kind of difficult out where I live to find a copy in good condition or complete. I had to pick it up. I love the first couple, but I felt like this part of the franchise did something unique and different. And Troy Baker, great voice actor, powerful punches with everything, and Travis Willingham as well. You may know him from Critical Role, but yeah, this was a unique and awesome game, and I want to give it another run. I'm gonna put these both up together since they're part of the same franchise. I had to get one from what they call the Asia region. I got these. I got it from Play Asia, but it's Caligula Overdose and Caligula Effect 2. I knew nothing about these games at all until my coworker that I worked with at Fallout. We kind of got in a conversation. He knows that one of my favorite RPG series is Persona. He's like, "Did you know that the guy created a new franchise?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" And yeah, it was Caligula. So there's an anime out. I've watched an episode, which is what really drew me into getting the games. And from that point, I just have not watched the anime at all. But yeah, pick those up. Picked this up on a whim through limited run. They did a really limited run number of them. I wanted a PS5 copy. Unfortunately, I only got a PS4. Beat 'em ups. Street Rage, one of my favorite ones. Final Fight's the second one. But I picked up Final Vendetta. It just gave me, just from like the video footage and the talks about it, it just gave me that old school retro beat 'em up feel. I had to get a copy. All right, well, I'm gonna put these three in the next section together. Again, had to pick one up from another region. At the time, it was super expensive for some reason, but now it's been re-released on PS5, and the other one is getting released on PS5 as well. But I picked up East Memories of Celceta, East 8 Lacrimosa of Donna, and East 9 Monstrum Nox for PS4. Again, happy console gamer talking about it and his love and just kind of like explaining what the series is kind of really drew me in, so I had to pick them up. And yeah, Lacrimosa of Donna was, for a time, like stupidly expensive on PS4, so I had to get a European copy, and it didn't pay too much for it, so it was pretty good. And I had Memories of Celceta on the Vita, but I got rid of my Vita collection at the time because I really didn't feel like collecting for Vita. I didn't really use it that often. So when they released it on PS4, I was like, I have to scoop it up. So I scooped it up. All right, here. This one, I slept on this series, and I'm not gonna lie, like, you know, I've seen gameplay. I've watched tournaments at Arc Revo America 2017, or 2018, I believe. I've seen Evo tournaments. It's a very fast-paced anime fighter, and I kind of slept in it. It's got great music too. But it's Under Night in Birth, what they call Uniclear. It was the latest version of the game. Haven't opened it yet to throw it in, but very excited to try it out. I'm always willing to play fighting games. I'm not a tournament-based fighter. I don't have the skills to probably like hang out in a tournament, so to speak. But I love playing fighting games with my friends, my family. Giving them a shot. So this one here. So I had to get this. I had to. I have the original on PS2. I remember getting this game on PS2 and playing it with my friends. We would come home from work, or meet up at the apartment, and each person had like their own memory card on PS2 to play, and we would just give each other crap. And Matador is still a pain in the butt. And that would be Shin Megami Tensei 3 HD Remastered. Like I said, I had to get it. I am a fan of the franchise and series, and it was hilarious to see my wife choose to play this on PS2 randomly one time and get to the first boss, Fornius, and get destroyed and get frustrated. And it was like, hey, welcome to what I went through. And we'll have to pop this in one time. Maybe I'll take a video of her playing it and getting frustrated again. Next up is Nier Replicant. I'm not going to go through the version number, it's just, but it's a remaster/remake of the first Nier. On this version, we technically didn't get in the States. It was only in Japan, because they made a couple. They had Nier Replicant and Nier Gestalt. Gestalt is what we ended up getting as our Nier on 360 and PS3. And this one was specifically, I think at the time, only 360. But this is technically the first game in the Nier series. Automata would be the second. But it was the most popular based on, its characters like 2B, A2, 9S. But this is what started it. And most people don't know that this series started from an ending from the Drakengard series. So if you ever want to delve into it, there's probably videos on like YouTube, and you can definitely take a look. All right, I'm gonna do these four together, mainly because it's all part of one franchise, and it's a franchise that I've been a big fan of since I was a kid. And it would be it's a Mega Man haul here. Mega Man Legacy Collection 1, Mega Man Legacy Collection 2, Mega Man 11, and Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2. I had to get them. I mean, throughout my years playing games, I've had the Mega Man franchise. I've either had to get rid of it, I've had them, stolen from unfortunate events, or I was dumb enough to just trade them in thinking, hey, I can get something new, and not realizing I would want to play them later. So this was a way for me to own the whole series without having to pay the exorbitant prices that are out there now for cartridges, which some might argue they deservedly should be that high, but it's almost become impossible to become a retro collector or continue to retro collect when the prices have reached high levels. This one was a gift from a friend of mine a couple Christmases ago. He got it for me, but he didn't even get to send it to me until like the beginning of 2022. Again, I love fighting games. Anime fighters are kind of like my jam. I will still love Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, but I really wanted to give this a shot, and so he picked it up for me. He actually got me the collector's edition that had come out, and I was happy, but there's a bit of disappointment with it too, because it seems like the majority of the characters, except for the main roster, is locked behind individual pieces of DLC, or you have to buy the digital deluxe edition to get the base game and those characters again at a discounted rate. And to me, it's like, I'm just going to stick with the base game until I make the decision to either pop down the money for each individual piece of DLC or just get the digital version. And that is Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. I think it's a great fighting game. I think it had a lot of potential. I think what hurt it was when it came out, the world had just got into the lockdowns during the, the no-no times. But side games, Exceed, give it a shot. Go back, put some rollback netcode in there. Give it another resurgence. There's a lot of fans out there who want to give it a shot. Oh, okay. So this, I had to scoop this up. Again, another franchise I love is Castlevania. Again, grew up with it. But this was a collection that had two, in my opinion, probably two of the best Castlevania games, and that's the Castlevania Requiem collection, Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood. Play Richter's story, what leads into Symphony of the Night, kind of know where it goes from there. But at least it's not the PSP version. I mean, that was a good game, but a bit slower than normal. It is I believe the Saturn version or the MSX version of the game, cleaned up, running well, or Turbo CD. And then Symphony, I believe that's the Saturn version of Symphony. So it has like it should have the Maria missions. I'm not sure. I may have popped it in to load it, but I haven't actually sat through to play it. This was another impulse buy on limited run. Again, I am a sucker for anime fighters. Item Breaker Omnia by Rocket Panda Games. I got this through limited run, and supposedly this is like the Supreme Edition of the game. Like it gives like all the backstory and that, and it's got even guest characters from Steins Gate. So if you like that. Another one, and I got this mainly for a franchise that really needs to revive itself. The Capcom Fighting Collection. This is a collection of like 10 games, with a majority of them being Darkstalkers. And Darkstalkers is probably my favorite, top-notch favorite Capcom fighting game. Horror characters, horror, icons. Morgan is such an icon from that series that she's in everything from Marvel vs. Capcom to, she's merchandised everywhere. I mean, they just did a run with Kotobukiya for the Bishojo figures, and she was the first one, followed by Felicia and Lilith. I would love to see more, like maybe a Queen Bee figure or a BB Hood. But yeah, if you love Capcom fighting games that are more than Street Fighter, pick this up. Plus, this is the first time we've gotten Red Earth in the United States. So another one. This was done by .emu and Tribute. .emu has done a bunch of different games like Windjammers. They've also done Streets of Rage 4. And this is TMNT Shredder's Revenge. This is, to me, TMNT 5. This game is freaking awesome. I mean, you've got co-op, online, offline. There's a little bit of world kind of traveling, almost similar to like the first Turtles game, or similar to like Scott Pilgrim, where you can go and do little side missions, but it is a straight beat 'em up and so freaking cool. So cool. This has been talked about as being probably one of the best like team fighters. It's got phenomenal rollback. I just wish they would go more with it. I mean, this has the majority of the DLC except for the last season pass, but some controversy with the development team later. But that would be Power Rangers Battle for the Grid Super Edition. I've been having nothing but fun with this game, and it's the Power Rangers. I mean, I love the Power Rangers. They have something about it, and I guess unfortunately I got this sadly right before one of the biggest icons in Power Rangers passed, and that was Jason David Frank. May he rest in peace. But these, it's Super Sentai. It was American. I loved it, and I liked the game, and I love her doing with the story. So that was the last PS4 one. We're gonna be moving on to PS5 now. I've got a few there, and then wrap up the video. 3 of the Shantae games on PS5. I have 7 Sirens, have Genie Hero Ultimate Edition, and Pirate's Curse. And I mean, they're pretty cool action platformers from Way Forward. I kind of got into it much later, just based on Half Genie Hero when it was on Game Pass for Xbox One. I got to play it. I thoroughly enjoyed Half Genie Hero, which made me dive into the rest of the series. But I never fully owned them all, and plus the game started off as a Game Boy Color game, and if you really do want a cartridge for Game Boy Color, good luck. But this was the way I knew I was going to get the whole series when it was announced on Limited Run. They were doing the whole series on PS5, so I went and I go ahead and I ordered each individual one. So good series, give them a shot. When this game got announced, I was actually pretty surprised that it was going to be that style of game. At the same time, I've heard that that the game that the team worked on prior, called Neo and Neo 2, they were a lot easier and more kind of palatable to get into if you're not too heavy of the Soulsborne style. And it's a collaboration with Square Enix and Koei Tecmo, and that would be Stranger Paradise Final Fantasy Origins. Like, the story, the way it was kind of like a retelling, if not an alternate story of Final Fantasy 1, just based on the fact that all the stuff that was leading into it, like the trailers and the 2 demos, kind of allude to Jack being Jack Garland, and Garland was the first major villain of the Final Fantasy series. I don't know what the actual story is in this. I haven't, as you can see, it's still sealed, unopened. I do plan on opening it this year and getting through all the back catalog of games that I have. Along that veins too, and this was more my wife that wanted to pick it up. I really have no clue why, but Elden Ring, she wanted to scoop this up, so we picked it up. Neither of us have put it in yet. Just a lot going on last year before, so we picked up more games than we actually played. But co-production between From Software and George R.R. Martin from Game of Thrones fame. Well, I guess he wrote the story and the lore, but they kind of built the game's all them. And obviously, Game of the Year, won Game of the Year at the Game Awards of 2022, even with the controversy of the young man on stage. This game here, I believe earlier in the PS4 section, we were talking about how I got into a conversation with a coworker at my former job about the Caligula effect, and how that was actually created by the former writer, scenario writer, producer, and one of the creators of the Persona series. And we had a conversation at work one day about, what was the next game that he was doing, and he had brought this game up and showed me the key art, and I was like, oh, that's so great. And I thought at the time it was being written and created by the guy who created, one of the creators of Persona, but lo and behold, find out this is actually former members of the SMT teams that have been there since Super Nintendo all the way through 3 and even 4 on the 3DS, left and created a small studio, and they created this game. It's called Monarch. Plays similar to, from what my former coworkers told me, Lost Dimension, which is another Fiyudu and NIS game. Also, this game is heavy into the ideologies of a person's ego, and really heavily leans into the 7 deadly sins and how each character kind of like fits within that. And even you as the player, you're playing as the protagonist, but the questions are directed towards you and how you are perceived, so you can actually see based on your answers if you're perceived which one of the sins. So Monarch, good JRPG. I've enjoyed it so far. It's a bit slow, but I digress. It's pretty good. This one here, we picked this up mainly because our 6-year-old loves racing games, and he's a fan of Hot Wheels cars, and that's Hot Wheels Unleashed. This game for kids is bar none just loopy awesomeness. Like, we let him go, like, here you go, and he just plays it. He loves it. It doesn't matter if he finishes the race or he crashes. He's just having a good time. But for the adults, there are so many layers to this, of like getting the right car, making sure you're getting the right times. How can you drift around the track, get around these and that? So I feel like as a family game, this is awesome. Um, and also the fact that it's Hot Wheels. Who the hell doesn't like Hot Wheels? Like I've unlocked like a Turtles car in this and a DeLorean without having to pay for DLC. And it's, you know, I grew up playing Hot Wheels, so it's pretty cool to see that. So the next game here, this one, when this game got announced, my wife looked me in the face and said, "We are getting this game for PS5, even if we don't have a PS5. Like, we have to have it on PS5. I want to play it at its optimal state." Horizon Forbidden West. She loved and repeatedly played Zero Dawn. She played the DLC, The Frozen Wilds, repeatedly. This got announced. She got this. When she popped this in, she did not get off of it. Like, 14 is her game, and she walked away from that game until she completed this. There's not that many action games that are thrown in first person. Last one I feel like it was an action like RPG that was like that was on the Dreamcast called Mach and X, and that was an Atlas game, very heavy in the like Japanese lore, the psychic realms and kind of things like that, supernatural stuff. And Ghostwire Tokyo, heavy lean into the mythos of, you know, yokai, ghosts, you know, supernatural psychic entities. I have heard of Dungeon Fighter Online. I have never played it because coming from the family I did, it was very hard for us to get computers that were up to snuff to run browser-based games. But the art, the music, the way it looks like it's using the Guilty Gear engine, it hit every little fancy that I needed to be there, and I was in whole hog. That's DNF Duel. When this game came out, there was a lot of hoop, there was a lot of holler, there was a lot of pomp and circumstance. Like, people wanted to love it, loved it. Then when they can play it, the community was big, but then it went silent. It wasn't even the community that went silent. It was, you know, the team behind it, Nexon, Neopal, 80, went super silent. And everybody's like, well, what's going on? It was supposed to be one of the games for the Arc Rebel World Tour. It was supposed to be a big game for EVO. It was just very silent. And then at EVO last year, they announced that they're going to be doing a big update in December. It was going to be balances and tweaks. And everybody was like, is that it? And there was kind of like, that's all they wanted to announce. And so a lot of the fan community, a lot of the fighting game community, and a lot of the fans of the game were worried it was gonna be a one and done. It was usually when that happens, it's a, all right, here you go, bye, we're done. And no one wants that. The game had a major drop off, and they surprised us. Like in December, they announced the release date for the update, but they also announced, they showed a new character, and it was like, oh, we're getting a new character maybe? Well, not even a few hours later, they announced a full season pass of new characters. So we're getting our first season pass for the game. So it looks like there's life in the game. Looks like they're really going to, push for it. And I'm glad to see that this game is getting support. If you are a fighting game fan or you are an anime fighting game fan, pick this up. It's been on sale numerous times during the holidays. Might still be on sale now. But yeah, scoop up a copy. It's worth it. It's super, it's technical, but it's simple. I like to call it simple but difficult to pick up. But yeah, enough. I don't know the development studio called the Game Bakers. The only way I knew about this game was as an artist I've been following for years on Instagram and Twitter. And I love their art. I've commissioned pieces of art from them before. And I saw the arts of these characters and I just thought it was original art. Didn't realize it was going to be the art for the game. The game's called Haven. And I like the music. I like the concept. As I've gotten older, I am the type of person that I look at games and I'm like, if it looks interesting to me, I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm not so much going for the AAA games all the time. I want to get games I want to play and enjoy, and games I'm willing to give a shot to. So, very excited to pop this in and play it. But yeah, if you are interested in a really beautifully art-drawn RPG, Haven might be a good one. This one, I had this on the Switch. I purposely sold it off on the Switch because at the time I felt like I was going to eliminate my Switch collection, and then I backpedaled after and kind of regretted getting rid of it because I was like, it was such an expensive game to get. I could have imported it. It has a patch for English language, but my original copy that I got from Limited Run, I was like, oh, this is a bit rough to get rid of. But then they announced they were making it on PS5, and then after that they announced they were doing the prequel game was going to be on PS5, and now the sequel has just come out digitally on PS5, and they did a physical for that too. So I've got the whole series on PS5. I'm just waiting on the prequel and the sequel to get delivered, so it'll be part of a pickups to 2023 as well. But that's River City Girls. It is a pseudo sequel to River City Ransom. It is a part of the Kunio-kun's franchise of games that came from Japan. We've gotten parts of them here in the States under other names. One game was called Renegade in the States. Then we also got River City Ransom, and we also got Super Spike V-Ball, which most people don't know that game is actually part of that Kunio series. But this game, choice voice acting, great music. I love the sprite work on it. It just hits at another level, and it's so good. The next game I have here, when I first saw this gameplay footage, it wasn't even an announcement trailer. It was just I randomly found it on YouTube while watching games, and it looked so interesting. And then I finally saw a 5-minute gameplay, and I was like, whoa, this is like a steampunk Mega Man game. And I'm like, but it's not a person, these are animals, anthropomorphized animals. And so when the game finally released, it didn't even release digitally in the States. It was only in China, I believe, only in Japan, and only in those languages. And then they patched it, I believe 2-3 months later to have English. And I was just like, I have to get this game. And so I picked it up last year, and then it got announced that September of last year was getting a physical edition in English. So, I mean, granted, my copy, even though it's from another region, the PS5 is region free, and it does have an English patch, so it is pretty much the same game, just completely different. But it's called Forge and Shadow Torch Fist. This game is freaking amazing. I love it. I had to put it down because I needed to give myself a game that I could drop up and down when, since we've had our youngest and our oldest is out of school. So we have to put more attention to the kids. But this game is so fun. The characters are lovable and likable. The enemies and even the enemy characters, you kind of get a giggle out of some of the goofier ones, kind of like a Bebop and Rocksteady style. And then, the big enemy, you're just like, oh yeah, no, I don't like you. I like what they're doing. But it is a Mega Man game. You get upgrades. The fist can be upgraded. You start off with this mechanized fist. You can get a saw blade. You can get an electrical whip. And each of those have progression trees that you go through. So as you're going through, you're getting these pieces and items and armors. You do progress the game. So it is a Mega Man / Metroidvania style game. But yeah, definitely pick up a copy if you are interested in those type of games. Forge and Shadow Torch Fist. The next game here that I picked up because, like I said, as I'm getting older, I want to try new games. And I feel like as of right now, the region in China and the game developers in China, they're really pushing themselves out there. I mean, I don't know how many of you have seen it, but there's a trailer out there of Wukong. That game looks phenomenal. I want to play it. As much as it would beat the heck out of me, I want to play it. And then there's the game Stellar Blade that's coming out, which that is a Korean-based game, and that looks phenomenal as well. It's like a Devil May Cry game, and I love the Devil May Cry series, so I'm willing to try it. And then so this, I saw a trailer in English of all things, and I was like, okay, is this an action game? No, it's an action RPG. Oh, this is cool. I'm thinking this is the first game in the series. This is the 7th game in the series. The game series has been around for a while, and it's been on PC. That's the first time it came to the States was on PC. But now we got them on console. So I had to get a copy. It's Sword and Fairy Together Forever. All right, so the next game here, everybody has it. You've seen it online with other YouTubers. You've seen it get reviewed. Stray. I saw the game. I like the dystopian, electronic atmosphere it's giving, and the fact that you're following the cat. I got a copy for the express purpose of playing this, but also playing it with my son so he can sit there, because sometimes he'll watch us play games, and he's enamored with the game. Like, the game's not even in, he can see the spine, he'll go, "Oh, kitty!" And he knows what game it is, and so that's him asking for it, so we'll have to play it. But I think so far from what I've played, it is a great game. It is a underdog, and deservedly so, won Indie Game of the Year. So, Stray. My next game here is for those retro guys, and gals that we grew up in the 80s, early 90s. We were enamored and marketed so much stuff about these 4 teenagers with attitudes. These mutant brothers named after Renaissance artists. And it's the TMNT Cowabunga collection. A collection of all the arcade games, all the Nintendo games, all the SNES games, and the Genesis games, as well as the Game Boy games. To be honest with you, this was a no-brainer purchase for me. There are some Turtle games that I had when I was younger that were unfortunately stolen from me, and I could never replace, and every time I tried to find them as I got older, it was impossible to find it in the areas I was in, or they were just out of my price range. And now I'm able to play all the games, and even the ones that I didn't own. But this is phenomenal. I popped this in the day I got it, and I went through Turtles in Time, the arcade game, which I have never played, from beginning to end. I went and played Turtles in Time for Super Nintendo, beginning to end. I went through and I played Turtles 2, Back from the Sewers on the Game Boy, beginning to end. I love this collection, and I think this is probably one of the best things Konami has done in a long time, was to allow these games to come back. And yeah, definitely pick up a copy of this. This development studio has made numerous games. One of the first I was introduced to was on the PS4, called Until Dawn. And I love that game for what it is. I originally went to school to be to get into the film industry. So we were taught, the hero's journey. We were taught script writing, camera shots, angles, all that jazz. And to see a game studio make a game that is a campy horror film, with interactive elements and choices, having a reason to do things, really, really, really stood out to me. So that when this game got announced, and this game was presented, they've done a whole series with Bandai Namco called the Dark Pictures Anthology. I wasn't too jazzed on those because those kind of seemed like they were like, short films. They weren't as polished. It didn't seem like they had the love that was there in Until Dawn. But the Quarry, that was announced, those gameplay trailers, I was like, this is back to form for Supermassive. Definitely a pickup if you like horror games. All right, so the next game we have here, I can't even do like an intro for it and everything. Them fighting hurts. I wanted to scoop this up purely on the fact that this has probably the best rollback netcode of any fighting game, and the fact that this game knocked out Smash Brothers from the online Evo that was happening during the no-no times. This started off as a My Little Pony fighting game, fan game. They got hit with a essentially is that it was Hasbro that said, hey, you cannot use our stuff. And they were like, okay. And then they reworked all the characters into completely different animals, with same personalities and different names. And it got a physical on PS5 and PS4 and Xbox and Switch. it is internet, you know, it's not just online, it's online, it's, you know, it's the typical fighting game. It's got its online multiplayer, it's at home, it's co-op multiplayer, and it's single player. And then this edition actually is the base game with its first season and then some like palette packs, so for the colors of the characters. I might have to upload some like matches in this game. They're advertising as of late, they've been showing a giant bull named Texas, and it just looks like dumb fun. So yeah, them fighting hurts. I've been interested in this game for a while. This game was on sale, and I scooped it up, and that's the medium. Now this was a new copy of the game, but this is how it came. It came open. This is one of those new, what we used to call a GameStop used. It's new but used game. But yeah, I picked up a copy of the medium, and so I'm interested in playing it. And it's by Bloober Team, and I believe they've partnered up with Konami to do the Silent Hill 2 remake, which has been talked about for a while. So, but yeah, that's an interesting game. This next game, a lot of my friends, even my wife, thought I would have picked it up on launch. I did have it pre-ordered. Unfortunately, I had to cancel my pre-order because I couldn't afford it at the time. But I did scoop it up on one of those pre-Black Friday deals between GameStop and Amazon, and that's Soul Hackers 2, a sequel to Digital Devil Story Soul Hackers that was originally out on the Saturn in Japan. We got it later on the 3DS, and I haven't played it yet, but from what I can see, there's barely a thread between the original and this. It's almost like they tried to make a new franchise out of the Soul Hacker series without having anyone know about the established lore. I'm interested in it. To me, Atlas, they're hit or miss when it comes to their games in the SMT verse, which this falls into. But I'm interested in seeing how it is, how it plays, and the aesthetic is pretty cool. So, Soul Hackers 2. The way it was described to me was, what if Berserk had a female protagonist, but then you have to play that character in a Devil May Cry style? And I was like, I'm quite interested if you have a title for me, and that would be Solstice. It looks interesting. Like I said, at my older age, I want to give games that are a shot. I'm not looking for, you know, 9s and 10s all the time. I'm okay with a 6.5, 7, 8, sometimes even a 5. But I mean, it looks interesting. The concept is interesting. I know there's some flaws in the game from what I've seen in reviews, but I thought I'd give it a shot, so I picked up Solstice. I had been eyeballing getting a copy of this game for a long time. At the same time, I did get to play it originally when it first launched on PS4, and I had a PS4 Pro, and it sounded like a jet. There was enough draw for me to want to play the game that I ended up picking it up during those sales, and it just so happened to be I got it right before they announced the sequel. That's Death Stranding Director's Cut. Kojima is a savant, but he's also a weird savant. He's just like his friend Guillermo del Toro. Great storytellers, weird minds. But I like that. Everybody kind of calls it FedEx the game or UPS the game, since you're playing as Norman Reedus' character delivering stuff. But it looks like, based on what this happens in this game, the sequel, there might be a correlation and it might be different gameplay. We're not sure, but I'm excited to try it out and kind of see what the story is like. So, I know the video is kind of long for our first one. I did want to get out there and show kind of everything we picked up throughout all of 2022. With 2023, I will be doing pickups hopefully every 2, maybe 3 months. See how much I've scooped up at the time. Also, I will be doing like other kinds of videos, pickups or reviews of tabletop games and D&D related items, as well as anime figures, and maybe even a chat around or opinions of like a new anime season or a game trailer. Who knows? But thank you so much for sitting through the video. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, thumbs up, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, And if you have any feedback, please throw one in the comments. I take a look at them and I'll read them. And thank you so much, and you have a great day.